Richard Hammond faces big problem in divorce agreement with wife Mindy. In January 2025, Richard Hammond, the famous host of Top Gear and the Grand Tour, announced his split from his wife, Amanda, Mindy, Hammond, after 28 years together. The couple have two daughters, Isabel and Willow, and despite their decision to split, they insisted they would remain a family and maintain a good relationship for the sake of their children. Castle issues in the divorce settlement. According to sources, Mindy is asking to keep their joint assets worth around £7 million, including Ballitry Castle in Herefordshire, where she currently lives. She also asked for a £500,000 annual allowance, a stake in Richard's businesses, including his car restoration company and production company Chimp Productions, as well as a share of their horse-related assets. Richard currently lives in a rented house nearby, where he runs the smallest cog car restoration garage. Despite his sadness at the split, he has tried to maintain family ties and continue his work. Speaking head family reaction. Richard's eldest daughter, Isabel, Izzy, criticized her father in an interview, calling him a fool and saying he had not been present much while raising her. However, Richard has admitted his shortcomings and feels very sad about the current state of the family. The son currently, Richard and Mindy are in the process of negotiating a fair divorce agreement, while trying to maintain a good family relationship for the benefit of the children. Cracks behind the wheel. Richard Hammond's fictional memoir. After leaving Ballitry Castle, the castle where he and Mindy raised their two daughters, Richard Hammond moved into a small house near the car restoration garage, the smallest cog. Although on paper it was a workplace for Richard, it became a shelter, a place where he bonded with metal and mechanical noise because those were things that did not question his emotions. Cars don't lie. If they leak oil, they leak. If they die, they stay still. But with people, things are much more complicated. One day, while cleaning the 1963 Jaguar E-Type that he had promised to drive with Mindy along the French coast, Richard discovered a small engraving on the back of the hood. A+R, Tuscany 2001 Red Heart. He put his hand on the words, his eyes welling up. It was their second honeymoon, no press, no cameras, just sunshine, wine, and unforced smiles. On the podcast, The Engine Room, Richard spoke publicly for the first time since the divorce. I didn't cheat. I was just swept away by a wheel that I thought I controlled, but was actually driving me. The statement caused a stir. Mindy, after months of silence, wrote an open letter published in The Guardian. In it, she recounted the nights he was away filming in Mongolia and forgot to call. The times she went to the hospital alone because he was busy, drifting a Lamborghini for a shoot. And her 40th birthday, he sent flowers, but mistook her name for a character from Top Gear. The letter ended with the line, "I love Richard Hammond, not the presenter. The guy who was afraid of heights but climbed on the roof to put up Christmas lights with me." Richard's eldest daughter, Izzy, spoke out on social media. My dad is not a bad person, but he never understood that families don't work like cars. You can't fix emotions with wrenches and screws. The tweet went viral, with millions of shares. Richard quietly sent his daughter a message, "I'm sorry. And if you'll let me, I want to learn again, like a new driver." 3 days later, they met at a small cafe in Shropshire. The conversation lasted 3 hours. No photos, no cameras, just one last hug, after years of just emojis hand-waving in messages. The court declared the divorce settlement complete after 11 months of negotiations. Mindy kept Ballitry Castle and 2 thoroughbred horses. Richard keeps the garage, the shares in Chimp Productions, and the Opel Kadett, Oliver, from the African adventure with Jeremy and James. The split is valued at nearly £12 million, but as Richard said in a Sunday Times article, "The only thing we can't really share is the memories. And we'll share those, for the rest of our lives." An unexpected turn. In 2026, on a new TV show called Rebuild, which Richard himself produces, he invites his first guest, Mindy Hammond. They don't talk about divorce. Together, they restore an old Land Rover that once belonged to Mindy's father. As the car starts for the first time in 40 years, they sit on the hood, silent. Mindy, we did it. Richard, the first time we did something together, without trying to fix anything. Audiences across the country shed tears. Not because they got back together, but because they learned to love each other in a new way, respectfully, gently, and from a distance. Conclusion. Happiness, version 2. Richard Hammond, who raced cars at 300 kilometers per hour, survived plane crashes, and stood on top of trains going 100 kilometers per hour to film, finally realized. Life doesn't need tire-burning corners. It just needs someone to be there when the car runs out of gas, and still be there, waiting. One Saturday night, Jeremy Clarkson sent Richard a 3-word message: go. Date. Now, below was a link to a high-end dating app for celebrities who divorced after 50. Richard chuckled, but downloaded it anyway. At 2 a.m., he swiped right on a woman named Sophie, an Oxford history professor who absolutely hates cars but likes small men with a sense of humor. The first date at a Notting Hill cafe almost turned tragic. Sophie, so, what do you do for a living? Richard, confidently, I once flew a tank over a swimming pool. Sophie, I just wrote a 400-page thesis on Napoleonic politics. The atmosphere was quiet. At the end of the date, Sophie said, you're interesting. But I think we're different cars, and I don't drive manual. One afternoon at Bollitree Castle, Mindy was cleaning out the basement, which was full of old boxes. Among them was a diary from 1997, the first year of their marriage. Richard was late again. But he brought a small loaf of bread and wrote, sorry, in mayonnaise. Why am I laughing at that? She laughed. That was Richard, clumsy, childish, but always trying. Even when he failed. That day, Mindy sat down to write a long blog post called, I Loved an Imperfect Man, and I Have Never Regretted It. The post went viral. Many people shared it, including an unexpected person, James May, who is often described as emotionally distant. James commented on the post, I always thought Richard was the loudest, but he turned out to be the softest-hearted. The BBC sent Richard an invitation to participate in a new reality show called The Repair of Me, where celebrities repair themselves by relearning a childhood skill from scratch. Richard chose horse riding, which caused him to break his arm when he fell off the horse when he was 14. The episode featured him falling off the horse, screaming, and shouting, I'd rather drift a Bugatti Chiron than ride this horse. But at the end of the episode, he stroked its mane and whispered, thank you for showing me that I can still start again. The episode broke viewership records, not because it was funny, but because people saw the real Richard, no script, no hidden cameras, just a man learning to accept himself. On the night of December 24th, at a small party hosted by his daughter Willow, Richard, used to being the one to kill the mood, was about to decline. But this time, he showed up. No gift, just a small box. Inside the box was a Super 8 film, shot by himself in 2003 of the girls playing on the swings, while Mindy sat under a tree reading a book. The family watched. No one said anything, but then Mindy put her hand on his shoulder. Thank you for keeping this footage, Richard. I didn't keep it. I never got rid of it. In 2027, Richard published a memoir called Gear Shift, From Driving to Being Human. The book is not so much about the TV show, but about the loneliness behind the scenes. The fear of not being good enough for the family. How he learned to listen again. In the final part, he writes, no one taught me how to be a father, a husband, or a person after divorce. But I learned that everyone can restart, not as an old engine, but as a new soul that needs to be heard. Quote,